picture of putting my face and then put it into AI. So how many of you guys are working in tech? For show of hands. Okay. So this is a lot of the complaints I hear. Feels like, oh, AI news coming every week. It's hard to keep up. Does this actually help my job, right? And like, people think it can do very basic questions, right? For how many people are founders? Founders? So some of the comments I hear is like, it's exciting and it's also scary, right? Because like, what if whatever I'm doing is going to get replaced by AI in like a few months, right? Like all my hard work went to the startup. Or like every investor is saying that we need AI in my products to get funding, and like, or like, oh, can I start replacing my own employees with AI, right? These are some of the thoughts that are going around. And then any investors in here? I guess, okay, so I'll skip that. So a little bit about us. So like, we do about 50 projects a year, and for the last year or so, we've done about 20 projects in Gen AI. So we actually do the projects. We don't just talk about it like a lot of other people. So, so what is AI actually good at? So people think it can do all the stuff, but really, I would say AI is a really good decision tree, right? Like traditionally in software, you can say, if this happens, do this. If this happens, do this. But what AI allows us to do is, it handles all the edge cases for you so that you can handle more scenarios, right? And it was designed to generate a stream of words, one after the other. So that's what you notice, it's not as good at doing logic as it's telling it to go create me a story or write me an ad, because that was what it was designed for. And another key thing that people always forget is, people say, oh, AI can do everything. Traditionally in AI, models are, if it's 70 to 80% accuracy, that's considered really good, right? But people expect now that the AI should be like 100% accuracy, but it's not there, right? So every time you see like ChatGPT mess up or something, you have to rethink about, keep that in mind that like AI are never meant to be like perfect, right? In terms of weaknesses, so the Gen AI is really bad if you give it autonomy. If you just say like, tell me like, who's gonna win the political election, like something like that, or like, right, give me the best stock trading strategy out there. It can't do it very well, right? It was designed where like, you tell it, here's your box, here's your problem, go solve it. And here's your constraints. That's where it works best. And it's not very good at predicting the future, because AI, generally speaking, when you train the AI, you're using historical data so that it models the data, right? So if you try to predict something it's never seen, it's not very good at it. And having very subjective thinking, it's also where it sucks at. So a common use case for AI that I see from most clients is, one is like, I have a lot of documents and you want to make a chatbot around it. So that's one type of problem. Another type of problem is like scoring. So it's like, okay, I have all these data points, give me a score for how well this does. Another one is reasoning. So like, here's some text, give me some logical reasoning about this. Automating manual steps. So this is the most common one. It's like, hey, we do this manually right now. It's the same thing every time. And then basically use AI to replace each piece. And then the last one is, like I said, creating a box where you create content within it. So here's an example of a client we did. They're in the insurance business in Australia. So they want to aggregate all the banks, all the different insurance providers, and then create a chatbot where you can ask questions and then give you which policies to take and which ones not to take. And we update this data in real time. So that's one example. This is another example. This is another client we have. So this client wanted us to make a chatbot where basically it will pull all the sport betting data, and then it will tell you who's most likely to win based on statistics and like normal formulas, not some special formula. Another example is in the financial space. This client is in the compliance space. They have all these financial statements, and right now people actually like look at these PDFs and count them up manually. So what we do is we go page by page and like give them like a summary. Okay, this is the total net profit from this client, or like this person's really risky. So basically reading all the documents and then replacing the expert's job and doing the document processing. Another one will be an expert. So basically, imagine you have content, and then we can transcribe the content, and then use AI to video edit the content into something you can put out. So this is another example of something that we've worked on. Other examples of creating content in a closed box is we had a client, he wanted to make an AI curriculum. So basically you say, hey, I want to pass the GED test or the LSAT test, okay? And then you say, these are my topics. And then it'll generate you the curriculum, the content to learn, and the quiz to test you on it, right? But see, we narrowed it within like education and specific tests, right? Another example, which is kind of scary and exciting, is like the AI developer, right? So like, here's my code base, tell the AI to understand my code base, and then code within this code base. So this has been an example of that. Other examples is, like I said, the superhero costume. You have like a preset way you want to put it, and then you can take someone's face and put it into the image. The other one that's getting more hype is voice cloning. So nowadays you can voice clone anyone, like with a 10 to 15 second clip. You can clone your voice and have it speak it out. So one thing we've done is use AI outreach. So like you can type in a phone number, it can call you, it can clone my voice and speak to you, and then use the AI to speak to you, and it sounds like a natural conversation. So here are some of the terminologies. So I'll go over them very quickly. So LLM stands for large language model. So the model, AI model. Tokens is what you pass into when you type in your prompt. Every 4 letters is basically a token. And basically the LLMs can only process so much tokens every time you use it. Temperature is basically how creative the AI is. So how randomized it gives you the answers. Max new token is basically how many tokens will it return back. So to reduce your cost, you can limit how much the output is. RAG is basically, it's a common method where basically the AI can only have so much memory. It's a way where you can have the whole encyclopedia of data and then have the AI pull from it strategically. Chain of thought is basically when you talk to the AI, and you want it to give you an answer, it's better to tell it, think through the steps before you give me the answer. And by doing this, it gives you a better answer because it goes through more processing before it gives you the answer. Tree of thought is chain of thought multiple times. And then embedding is the idea of taking content, words, and converting into numbers so that we can do RAG. RALHF is I think it's like human feedback. I think reinforcement learning human feedback. So when they trained the AI initially, they trained it and then they had humans adjust the output. MO, which is a mixture of experts. It's a methodology where we have a bunch of LLMs specialized in different things, and then they all together, they give you a better answer. And then the last 3 are like 0 shot, 1 shot, and 2 shots, where basically it's different ways you can prompt it. So 0 shot is you just ask the question point blank and it gives you an answer. 1 shot is like maybe you give it an example and then you tell it to go do it. And then 2 shots is you give it many examples and then you expect it to prompt it. So some of the strengths that the AI has is that, like I said before, it's very good at recalling information, answering questions. And it's very good at executing step-by-step logic and generating words. And then weaknesses, like I said, giving predictions, giving vague answers on data. If you tell it to search the internet without context, yes, it can do it, but it's not very good. It's very guided. If there is too many files, so like I have a client, we have to process 7,000 documents before we give an answer, right? So something like that, it's really not good at. If you have too much text, it might hallucinate the answer and give you like a fake answer. And it's not good at multi-level logic. So some practical tips for everyone when they're trying to prompt the LM is to define the role. So say like you are like a creative, you're an SEO expert, or you are a developer. By doing that, you narrow down the search space, so then they give you better answers. And then you want to give it like, here's my input, here are the steps, and then here's the expectation. This is what I expect you to give me back as an answer. And then another thing people always talk about is, should we do prompt engineering or fine tuning? So prompt engineering is basically just, you type in prompting, and you just prompt more specifically to give you a more accurate answer. Fine tuning is where you want to teach you something new where the AI cannot get it right every time and you want a specific format. So that's when you would want to do fine tuning. So since my last meeting, there's been a lot of updates. So basically I would say it's almost all the LLMs, the main ones, they're basically the same in capabilities, right? But each one has a different specialty, I would say. So I made them to memes so that it's easy to understand. So like, so you use GPT-4o. It's an all-rounder. It's probably the cheapest, and like, but it's not really good at role playing. And there's a lot of sensors to it. If you want speed and you want like cheap, you can still use GPT 3.5. Claude Sonnet is pretty good at content generation. They have too many safeguards, but they're like in the top models. So like the top models are like Gemini 1.5, GPT-4o, Claude Sonnet, Llama 3.1, and Mistral. For Llama 3.1, it was released by Meta, and it's the biggest open source one, and it's very good at role playing and translations. So my go-to, if you want to be privacy focused, is use Llama 3.1, and if anything else, then it's just between these three, whichever is cheaper to do. Mistral is also very good, but except it's really bad at role playing, and it's very good at giving you direct answers. And if you need very high API limits, rate limits, then you would want to go to Azure GPT-4. Then there are like two others. So like, if you want like really fast speeds for your LLM, then you can use Grok. And Apple's product is really bad, so I would not use it. So in the past, I talked about context windows. So context windows is how much text you can feed into the AI. Before this was a huge problem, but now everyone can at least 228K tokens. So that's a lot of text. So basically, this is not really an issue anymore. Another big issue they had in the past was formatting responses. So having it as JSON format or XML. Now it's really good, and this is not a problem. In terms of the limits, I have a slide here. So if you want to look at it later, it tells you what the costs are. But basically, like, to use the LLMs now, it's basically cost you pennies to do most of the stuff. Before, it would still cost you a lot, but it's getting cheaper and cheaper. So a lot of the LLMs, when they say how good the LLM is, they have all these metrics like, oh, it passed the SAT test or it passed the math test. Basically, all those tests is bullshit. It doesn't work. Like, you can test it yourself, and you would see it like. Basically, these metrics are like made up, basically. So I would not trust any of them. If you want to see a new LLM, just test it yourself, and you'll see for yourself, basically. For RAG, which was discussed before, I'll go over it very briefly. But basically, the idea is when you make a query, basically we've taken all these documents, we've converted into numbers, and we stored it in a vector database. Then when we make a query, it looks at your question, and it finds how similar is the text with something in our vector database, and then it pulls out that content. So imagine that you go into a library, and then you tell the library, I want this, and they pull out all the books for you. Then the LLM will take the books and your content, and then they'll give you an answer. So this is the best practice that most people are doing, and it's what's still working. And then here are some of the vector databases that are on the market. For me, if you want open source, then I would use LansDB. If you need performance, then I use Pinecone. But there's these as well. If you are getting too many answers and you need to re-rank what you get from RAG, then you can use Cohere. So Cohere has full models for this. And this is very important. For example, when I had that project where we have 7,000 documents, when we pull all the content, they have to re-rank what is the most important and what isn't. So that's when you will use Cohere. For image generation, it's gotten a lot better now. I would say, again, almost all of them they're all equivalent now. So I'll just go over some of the weaknesses. So DALL-E is the weakest one because they haven't really made any updates recently, but it's still very bad at words. But it's integrated into ChatGPT. Midjourney is the best for consistency. So if you need to generate the same image, so let's say you try to do a story, like I have a superhero costume and then I'm at this pose, it's the best at having the same consistent style of image. And I'll show you that in a bit. Stable Diffusion, it's one of the older ones. It's pretty good, but it's not the best. Leonardo AI is another one. It's fast and it's good at making detailed images. Imagen 3 is from Google, so it's really good as well, and it's very good at generating human photos. The latest one that came out was Flux AI, which is completely open source. You can literally host it on your own computer, uncensored, and you can do whatever you want with it. And it's very good at realism photos. And then there's two others. So there's FreePic AI. FreePic AI is free to use, and it's very good at making very mystical photos. And then there's Adobe Firefly, which it's also very good, but it's integrated into the Adobe Suite. So let me show you some examples. So here's some of the pricing for the ones. Some of the problems in image generation that still exist is that, like I said, the consistency problem, and I'll show you an example in a bit. When it has to handle very complex prompts, right? Where it's like very detailed scene, sometimes it still messes up a little bit. Realism is a problem. Ethnic consideration. So sometimes if you say, "Oh, I want a picture of the president of the United States," and then like it would not do the right racial profile. So that a lot of these problems have been fixed. The main one that's still not really fixed is the drawing text, and I'll show you that in a bit. It used to be drawing hands was a problem, but they fixed that as well. So here's an example. So this is like generated twice. So the cat look almost the same. So that works. But then when I show something like this, where I said like I want a firefighter with purple hair, see it didn't generate the same image, and it was using the same prompt, right? So you can see how this is still a problem. Now, if you use Midjourney, this is another project we did for a client where they wanted to make children's storybooks using AI. So it will generate the images and generate the story. So how similar are these, would you guys say? Close enough, right? So, but this took a lot of work to do. Like, there's a lot of tricks you have to do to make it happen. But Midjourney is the best at this so far, compared to the other ones. Like these are some pictures of some more complex prompts. Realism, like this is stuff you can do now. Ethnic considerations, so like this one we just told to make a festival of people of different races. So it did a pretty good job with both. So like I said, the biggest and the hand problem has been fixed. So you can see all 5 fingers in the feed. But then you see it drawing. See, this is where it starts messing up still. So like I told her like, okay, like if you do one word, it's fine, right? But if you say multiple words, see, put the word believe twice. They made some random words here. And I told her, hey, make me a logo for my podcast. And they just add some random stuff there, right? So it's still not quite there, but we'll see if it gets better. Then there is vision. So a lot of the LLMs, they can do vision, where you can just tell it, here's an image, tell me what's happening, right? So of all of them, there's GPT-4o, Claude, Sonnet, Llama 3.1, and Gemini 1.5. I would still say that GPT-4o is the best for complicated stuff. And then if the image is too big or the video is too long, then use Gemini. Everyone else is still not that good at it. Then we've done voice cloning. So like what I mentioned before, like clone my voice and have to call you. So some of the lessons we learned from doing voice cloning is the words in the script really matter. The AI is really bad at understanding it. So if you use short forms like Mr., Mrs., it will just literally say MR dot, right? Or like INC dot, right? So you would make sure to convert them all to like the written word. Avoid numbers, because it'll start spelling the word. It'll say $1.2.45, right? Avoid names of people when you can. So it still has hard times pronouncing names sometimes. Adding punctuations into the script to create natural pauses. That's very important. And then sometimes, like depending on which library you use, there could be latency, because it's going over the wire. Like you actually have to consider stuff like where's the server? Like if I'm selling to people in Vancouver, the server should be in Vancouver, so that we have better latency. Because every second matters. When we have a conversation, like you expect the answer within like 1 second, 2 seconds, right? If you wait 4 seconds, then it's not good. And like make sure you add like the S's, like use proper grammar. Like the AI will really mess it up. And then sometimes the voice has inflection problems as well. So we've tested all all of the different libraries to do voice cloning. As of right now, 11 Labs is still way better than all of them. The next one will be VoiceCraft. So interesting projects that are going on. So as I was saying with AI developers, so the idea is that they have a benchmark where they have different AI models, and they will basically say, here's your code base, solve these tickets for me. And then what they're doing is the AI is reading the question, creating a plan, downloading the code, and then executing the plan, almost like a turn-based game. So imagine it's like step one, okay, download the code. So then it goes to another AI agent to say, download the code. Then it says, all right, number two, find me the file where this problem exists. So then it has another agent that will go and search each file until it finds the file. And it goes step by step, and then executes it, and then it restarts it again until it solves the problem. So as of right now, I think it says 43%, but I think last time I checked it was like 30%. So I think probably in the next 6 to 8 months, it might get to like 80%, right? So then I think teams would have to really consider how they structure the team. If the AI can do 80% of the tickets, right? Another big one is SAM2 from Meta. So the idea is that for the longest time, computer vision was a hard problem because basically what they do traditionally is they trace the pixels around an object and then they guess what that is, right? So Meta made a new model called SAM2 where it's way more accurate than everyone else in the market at identifying objects. So this is a big improvement, and they open source it as well, so people can use it. Another one for developers is called 5D. So basically, this is like a ChatGPT for coders, and it specializes on answering questions and so forth. So this is another interesting one, especially for debugging code. Perplexity, I think a lot of people have heard of this. Basically, where it's better at helping you do research because you type a question and it will pull the Google sources and use AI to give you a better answer, give you more related questions. Runway, this one's been around for a while, where basically they can make animated video movies for you that look real, and then but you can prompt it. And then OpenAI released Sora months ago. They still haven't actually launched it, but the idea is you can prompt it and you can get real life videos. So we're still waiting for this to come out. There's also a large action model. So the idea is that over time, basically as GPT vision gets better, you can basically train it okay, how would if I want to order Airbnb for my trip, how would I do it? So you click on the screen in different spots, and then the AI can follow your steps and replicate it. So this is something that's still in the research. A lot of people spend a lot of money on it, but there's no clear winner for this yet. So these are my predictions on what's to come. So I think all search engines are going to change. Like Meta has their own search engine. There's Perplexity now. Google's putting AI into search. So the whole idea of SEO, where you have to do all this content, it's going to get very weird, right? Because these companies are not giving credit to those companies. So there's no incentive for a company to put out blog articles or content, right? So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but this is severely going to change. There's open source models, and then there's closed source models. Basically, at this point, Llama 3.1 is as good as GPT-4o and Claude Sonnet and Gemini. So basically, I think a lot of people are going to decide, do I want to use the API versions from them, or do I just want to use Llama 3.1? And I think a lot of people are going to support Llama 3.1 over time because they have more control over it. And that's going to be a moving trend. And I mentioned about the AI engineer. And I really think that for people who are trying to do AI products, I think AI to increase productivity within a company is going to be way bigger than people making new AI products for consumers, right? Because at some point, OpenAI might just do what you're doing, and then your startup is non-existent, right? So that's just my thoughts on that. So if you guys want the slides, you guys can scan the QR code, and then there's my contact information. And does anyone have any questions? I guess before we move on to the next part. Yep.
2 questions. How much of this presentation was generated using AI?
0.
And then a more serious question. Have you seen any progress in in evaluating these models at scale in production. So, like for example, there's Lang Smith, but you need to use LangChain to use Lang Smith to like test the models.
You just call the models directly. They all have APIs, right? You don't need LangChain for anything.
Right. I'm just saying, like, how can you determine how accurate the model is in production? How can you test it at scale? How can you test that the users using the AI are getting the correct answers from the model?
So most of my situations I'm doing for clients, we have the context already. Does it make sense? We're asking questions about the context that we have. They're not searching the internet for it. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So for the most part, it is accurate. It's just sometimes the problem is the human who gives the question, right? Like if we design the questions to be like very basic, and you ask like a 3-level logic question, it's gonna get it wrong. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
But then so you just need to test for like what's the real life scenario, and then it should be fine. But again, don't tell it to make predictions on who's gonna win the political party, like political race, whatever. So that's gonna get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you mentioned in the last slide, one before this one. When you said that, increasing productivity per company is probably better than building a consumer. Would you say that like going more the consultancy route would probably be the best way to go? Because instead of trying to catch up with ChatGPT or building something that can, like you said, be replaced, it's probably better to just go that route where you help businesses actually leverage.
Yes, but also everyone else is also doing that as well.
That's what I'm saying.
Basically, every software company is kind of switching that, right? So, yeah. Yeah.
What were like the best AI engineers that you found?
What do you mean?
Like you mentioned like the AI engineers, someone that can like see a ticket, go look at the code base of like what file and start writing code, writing code. Do you have any examples?
I didn't test any of them. I don't believe any of them, to be honest. Like, basically, like, well, I think they're being too ambitious, right? Like I mentioned before, the best case is like I have my code base here, and I train the AI on my code base only, and it's here to solve tickets in my company only, right? Because like the AI part is better at coding Python and JavaScript than it's coding like Go or like C#. Does it make sense? It didn't have as much training data, right? So it's like, and every company has their own coding patterns, right? So it's like, I really don't care what they're doing, but for me, like I'm trying to do that in my own company. Like right now, like I have projects where I had PhD projects like from 3 years ago, and we have no developers to maintain it, right? So like I created like an agent to basically understand how I code, and I told it, hey, help me. These are the issues. Go help me fix it, and it will fix it, and I'll just put it in myself, right? So normally I would tell a developer, it might take me 3 hours to do it, right? It literally took me 5 minutes to fix like 10 issues in an old project, right? So it's already working. It's just how streamlined you want to be. And again, some of these people are trying to make this into a business. Does it make sense? And I think that's the wrong approach. Well, no, it's good and bad. Like if you're a game play the investment game, it's good, right? But the real value is putting in your own company, right? Like you have like an AI that will never leave a company. It'll always code and it'll always maintain what it needs, right? Yeah. Yes.
So assuming, I have a question about managing hallucination and accuracy. Assuming that you're picking the model, the right context for your use cases, and you're using it in like district, from your experience, how high can the accuracy level and probability of a hallucination gap can optimize to?
I think hallucination goes to 0 basically. If you have the right context and it's not too much context. So if your context window is like 8,000 or less, it shouldn't make mistakes for the most part, right? If you have 16K, you see it gets bigger, then that becomes a bigger problem, right? But it takes a lot of testing, right? And then like over time, just if you pull the right information and it's smaller, then it should give you better answers.
And what is the process to reduce the hallucination and increase the accuracy? Is it like human kind of have to validate?
It's just human testing.
Just human testing. Okay. Is there any automation that you're seeing?
It doesn't make sense to automate testing, right? Because the AI gives you different answers every time. Like the word, let's say this time use next time use the. So how are you going to automate test for that?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Have you ever seen like proper dialogue about the ethical implications of letting all this AI out into the real world?
I think basically once it's out, it's out. Like, how can you stop it? Like, someone in another country will just take it. Like, Llama 3.1 is out, right? It's open source. Anyone can run it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't stop it, basically, right?
That's true. I agree. More of my question is like, there's going to be some pretty negative type of consequences as well as positive. I mean, I can already, being a cynic, you know, I can already see the direction it would go. Surely for us, like engineers, people actually developing and utilizing these tools, there's a conversation that should be had, right?
Yeah, but I don't get paid to talk about that stuff. Like,
That's true.
right? So I'm not gonna worry about stuff that I cannot control. And it's like, what can I say? Like I said, like clients want this, we make it for them, right? So that's not really like if I was a government, maybe I have a different answer. Yep.
Oh, hi, yeah, so, we have a startup called airplatform.ai, and we're focusing in on enterprise AI management. So before you implement AI systems within your enterprise, we're proposing a platform that kind of serves as your backbone across the enterprise. You can plug in all your AI implementations and all the users as well, and then you can run algorithms in the middle so that humans can manage AI, not AI system managing other AI systems. So we're addressing that. We're actually talking to some pretty large law firms right now because of very large overlap in legal tech as well. Because the results that are going to come out of any AI implementation is going to have profound risks attached to it. There are benefits. You know, we say use AI, manage AI. Right? So in order for you as an organization to use AI, you first have to think about the fundamental architecture of how you manage it. You can't just bring all these things in and start handing out these, you know, handguns to all the partners. Technology for me in AI space is like a handgun. You have to really focus in on training the user on how to use this technology. So we're working on that.
And I wonder if there's insurance that you can cover the lawsuits, if you're an enterprise, like if you have that budget. That probably is right now there's so many changes and I never kind of figure out the regulation and stuff. It's probably a safe route, just in case, instead of thinking about that.
Yeah. Jack, question before?
So, two things. One, I'll make a comment on this. So, I used to build LLMs before the pandemic, so before this was sexy, specifically for life sciences, pharmaceutical companies. Incredibly legal, right? Try to tell it to give your child the adult dosage of Tylenol, that's a lawsuit. You need human intervention. There's going to be no ifs or buts about it. They can't